Good morning, I'm Kara Rucker. It's Monday, April 21st, 2025, and these are your Unbiased updates. We're following breaking news as Pope Francis, the leader of the Catholic Church, has died at 88 years old. And we're learning about a second signal chat in which Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly discussed military operations, this time with his wife and brother.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased updates.
We start with breaking news this morning out of the Vatican. The 266th leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, has died. The Vatican announced the religious leader's passing, saying at 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the home of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his church. The news comes just hours after the 88-year-old made an Easter Sunday appearance at St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. In his Easter address, which was delivered by Archbishop Diego Ravelli on the pontiff's behalf, he urged peace in Gaza and Ukraine, as well as other parts of the world experiencing conflicts. In recent months, Francis battled a host of health issues, including diverticulitis, pneumonia, and bronchitis. Pope Francis took over the Catholic Church during a time of tumult after the 2,000-year-old institution faced multiple controversies during the tenure of his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI, whose surprise resignation led to Francis's election. He made history as the first Jesuit and non-European to hold the Church's highest office in more than 1,000 years. However, Francis also faced controversy of his own, often for his progressive outreach to LGBTQ plus Catholics and crackdown on traditionalists. He also faced the unique task of navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. This morning, Vice President J.D. Vance, who is Catholic and just met with Pope Francis in person this weekend, posting on social media, quote, "My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill. But I'll always remember him for the below homily he gave in the very early days of COVID. It was really quite beautiful. May God rest his soul." Francis's body will be put on display in an open coffin in St. Peter's Basilica, where pontiffs have been buried for more than 100 years. However, in accordance with Francis's wishes, he is expected to be buried at the ancient Basilica of St. Mary Major, which lies outside Vatican walls. His successor will be chosen during a conclave, a gathering of cardinals who are charged with electing a new pope in strict seclusion at the Vatican. Also making headlines this morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly used his personal phone to send information about U.S. military operations in Yemen to Signal group chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer, according to multiple sources. The messages, which were sent on March 15th, included flight schedules for jets tasked with striking Houthi targets, those sources said. The messages were sent the same day Hegseth shared similar operational details in a separate Signal chat in which a journalist was accidentally included. Reports on that chat sparked widespread concerns over how senior officials handled sensitive military information. Hegseth has not responded to this report as of this recording. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele has proposed a prisoner swap to Venezuela. He's offering to return 252 Venezuelans allegedly tied to gangs, murders, and other crimes, deported from the U.S. and now detained in a Salvadoran mega prison in exchange for an equal number of people he calls political prisoners held in Venezuela. Venezuela has pushed back, calling the deportees kidnapped migrants and questioning their detention. Bukele called it a humanitarian agreement in a post on X, asking Venezuela for the return of family members from opposition leaders, journalists, lawyers, and 50 detained citizens of other nationalities, including American. Venezuelan's general attorney has reportedly responded asking for more information, including names and medical status of Venezuelans detained in El Salvador. signaling the country may be entering the idea of a swap, but still no formal agreement between the two. Missiles and drones are being launched this morning following the end of what was supposed to be a 30-hour ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. About 100 strikes on Ukrainian regions took place early Monday, but Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, says Russia had already been striking Ukraine during the agreed ceasefire. And Russia's Vladimir Putin says Ukraine likewise violated the ceasefire. Zelensky posted on X the total number of violations by the Russian army of Russia's own ceasefire promise throughout the day reached 2,935. Zelensky had offered a full 30-day ceasefire after Easter, saying in his X post, "Ceasefire will be met with ceasefire and Russian strikes will be met with our own in defense." Actions always speak louder than words. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry accused Ukraine of breaking the ceasefire more than 1,000 times. The apparent broken 30-hour ceasefire showcases a level of difficulty ahead for a peace deal to end the war now in its third year. President Donald Trump posted to Truth Social Sunday, hopefully Russia and Ukraine will make a deal this week. Both will then start to do big business with the United States of America, which is thriving, and make a fortune. Meanwhile, a U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal could be signed by April 26th. Trump said an 80-page deal will be signed, his Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent indicating that agreement is likely to come April 26th. Bloomberg reported that the U.S. has reduced its repayment demands from $300 to $100 billion in the new minerals deal now on the table. Talks between Iran and the U.S. are moving forward after a positive round of negotiations in Rome over the weekend. The two sides, which met indirectly, are working toward a possible deal over Iran's nuclear program. It was the highest level talks between the U.S. and Iran in years. The U.S. is looking to stop Iran's fast advancement of enriched uranium needed for nuclear weapons. A spokesman for U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who indirectly met with Iran's counterpart, says President Trump has been clear Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon or enrichment program. However, a top aide to Iran's supreme leader said Iran won't accept the dismantlement of its nuclear program, but is looking for relief from U.S. sanctions. U.S. and Iranian officials plan to meet again next week, where higher-level talks will take place in Oman. Finally this morning, perhaps some comforting news for the human race. It seems robots aren't quite ready to take over the world yet. 21 humanoid robots competed in a half marathon in Beijing Saturday alongside flesh and blood runners. The first of its kind 13-mile race was the culmination of months of training for the humanoids, which had to master skills that come a little more naturally to some of us humans, like balancing. And while it was an impressive feat of innovation, the robots still have a lot to learn after many of them apparently stumbled and tumbled their way through that race. But this guy right here, taking a walk with his head held high after crossing the finish line, apparently doing well enough to earn himself an award. And I don't know about you, but that is the face of accomplishment right there, and completed the half marathon without a drip of sweat. How about that? I just don't know how I would feel running alongside robots. I think I'd be too scared they were chasing after me. So I don't know. I would do well in that sort of race running for my life. Good practice just in case the bots turn against us one day, if you think about it. These are your unbiased updates for this Monday. Thanks so much for having me. Craig Negrelli will be back with you tomorrow morning. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Kara Rucker. Have a great day.